everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
All right, Melissa, you sent me an article, which is my favorite thing that you do.
I did. Just a handful of hours ago, too, actually.
One of our very favorite places to learn and get information is the Harvard Business Review. I think both you and I
HBR for
think
short.
that they've got tons of great content. So I always recommend if people want to, what's interesting about Harvard Business Review is, like, while it is a business thing, they have got so many articles on the emotional side of the coin, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, they do. And you know what? In case people are like, how do you do that? Actually, if you have a LinkedIn account, you can follow them and you'll get all these great articles. It's really worthwhile. I've really enjoyed that association over the years.
All right. So the article you sent me, how to stop dwelling on your stress. That's the name of the article. So it's about how do you stop ruminating on things? How do you stop spinning on things?
Yeah, I think this is such an important topic. Maybe it's just because of my own current life.
It's because you are currently spinning.
Maybe once or twice I find myself ruminating.
So just
an hour.
Just talk about ruminating or dwelling on something for a minute. How does that feel for you, and what's kind of going through your head when you're in that mode?
Yeah. For me, it is, I get something stuck in my head. It's usually when I'm more tired or I'm more stressed about something. Like if I don't feel as mentally or emotionally as strong, I feel like I am weaker to not having as much control over what I'm thinking about, my thoughts. And then I will find that they will automatically start to move and dwell on unhappy thoughts or things that don't make me happy, rather than ruminating, which would be awesome to ruminate on all the good things. But I do find when I'm really tired or stressed, I end up just really hyper focusing on the one or two things that's causing that stress, or that's how it manifests for me. What about you?
Well, I don't think I've ever heard of someone say, you know what, I'm really dwelling on how happy I am. Right? It's always about something negative.
No. I
am really dwelling on how much I love my children.
I'm dwelling on how much fun I had in Hawaii.
Really,
just ruminating
about how I really enjoy my work.
I'm really super focused on how great my retirement account is right now.
So it's funny we use, whatever it is, dwelling, ruminating, overthinking, stress, it's always negative.
What's wrong with us as a human population? What's wrong?
It's hard being a human, I'm telling you.
It's hard, especially a grown-up human.
So I find myself, the things that I really ruminate on are things that, I can't resolve. There's no resolution. So I'll get really stuck when I don't know, there's a outstandanding issue, there's a conflict in a relationship that I haven't been able to get resolved yet, or there's a problem at work, or there's just something in life that I have not been able to really take any action on or do anything about, so I get stuck there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's well put. I by the way, while you were talking, I was thinking to myself, we should have a catchphrase, a funny one, like rumination of the day. Because there always seems to be. That's the other thing. I'm curious if you ever are not ruminating on something.
That's a good question.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems
So
like...
I feel like there's always something that we don't think is good enough.
Well, it kind of goes into that being in the moment and mindfulness. And I kind of want to stay away from the deeper mindfulness conversation. Because like, you know, while it's, you know, there's good parts of it. Like when rubber meets the road, it's like an everyday life is getting thrown at you. It's not like we can just be like, okay, hold on, I gotta go meditate for 15 minutes and get back in the moment.
Yeah.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like,
right. I need to just practice being in the now.
but there is something the default, like the default state of our brain is actually to just kind of spin through things. And when I think about that,
and seek comparison.
And when I think about that, it's like the brain's always trying to problem solve. That's kind of its thing, right? Like, just trying to keep you safe. So it's trying to look for all the lions and tigers and bears in the woods that might be attacking you, and making sure you're finding food. It's, you know, it's constantly kind of doing a lot of those very basic survival things. But then when we get into our more modern environment, a lot of things that our brain maybe thinks are threats or things are unresolved that we need to solve, but we can't.
Yeah.
You know, it just sits there and tries to work on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. That's a good phrase. It sits there and tries to work on it. Exactly.
And it's not in our control, right? I would say like...
Oh, that's an interesting thing.
I don't feel like it's in our control. It? Maybe it is a little bit, but again, when we, like you said, when you get tired, when you don't have the energy to rationalize through your thoughts, they can just start.
Run rickshaw over you.
like a huge wave can come through.
Yep. Yeah, that's so true.
So our little HBR article has 4 ideas for us to how to stop this. We've well articulated. Yay. I think everyone knows what we're talking about at this point. One of the
this is another example, by the way, where I did the swag, where I did the 5%er. I was like, this is a cool article. Forward to JJ. Hey, we should do this. So then JJ says, okay, so what did you think of the article? And I say, I don't know, I didn't read it. I just thought it sounded good.
This is how we do it. You find an idea, you throw it over the wall, and I make a whole page of notes. All right, here's the stat. We all love a stat. 76% of Americans say that stress is affecting their well-being. It's like over 3/4. Question. That's almost everybody. And a lot of the stress, I think, comes from overthinking and ruminating and dwelling on things. So
yes, I couldn't agree more.
All right, tip number 1: anchor yourself. So when you find yourself,
like, you don't mean like in the bottom of a lake,
the extreme overthinking.
Please don't do that.
Like a sensory deprivation chamber. Have you ever heard of one of those? That's a thing.
Yes, okay. Of course. I know it is. I actually would like to try one of those once. I've had a couple of friends do them and just love them.
All right. So anchor yourself. This would be, you and I use this phrase all the time, check in with yourself. I think...
Or find your center.
This is the same concept is what are you going to, when you notice you're overthinking, what are you going to do to get centered again?
Yeah. Does it give tips? Or is this where us as the self-awareness journey gurus talk about tips?
There's a couple of tips, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
I just called us gurus. Oh.
Well, yeah, they talk about like what are you thinking? How are you feeling? What are you doing? So
ask yourself some general questions. I feel like the very first thing is to just notice how it feels in your body and your head when you are ruminating. Because you may not be able to identify why until you start doing what you're suggesting. But I feel like a lot of times we don't even notice that we're feeling a certain way, but we are, and it's so consistent and such a obvious feeling. I mean, it's kind of like if you exercise, the feeling that your body has right after you exercise, or if you overeat at Thanksgiving, you have a very specific feeling that you can identify. I actually feel like there's the same thing applies in overthinking. I think there's specific body feelings that would be very helpful for us to recognize. And then, as you're suggesting, start asking some questions.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's often like a tightness in the shoulder or sort of the neck, right? I know that like I might physically get tight. My
physical manifestation of it would be, this is so strange to describe. I don't even know if I can, but the back of my head feels heavy. The back of my head feels heavy. Like it's just an uncomfortable feeling, like super heavy and fuzzy.
The like
I might just need to brush my hair, but that's another topic.
The other thing I was thinking about with anchoring, and you were kind of joking about it, but like quite literally anchoring for me, I notice like when my thoughts start getting out of control, it's very helpful for me to like do something, anchor with something physical. So for example, I'll often get a hot cup of tea like in a ceramic mug, so I can feel the heat through it, like not an insulated mug, but one that I can feel the heat through, and I will sit with that heat in my hands, which kind of brings me back to like a physical, like a physical feeling.
That's like your reminder. That's like your physical, your body. You're reminding your body physically that when it senses that, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing.
This one's a little goofy, but sometimes I'll like walk around in my bare feet. Like I'll even walk outside in my bare feet, because like if you walk,
do you
yes,
really?
Okay, now we're just
I can't have
really emitting personal things on the podcast. Like
I know it will come back to haunt us. It always does.
That's why generally I'm a very open book about like, but I don't want to talk about how I walk around in my bare feet. To me, like walking in the grass, or even on my driveway.
Wow, so you're very, very
like that's a very
literal.
Very literal connection to like the earth in anchoring.
I think that's amazing. And what I do is, just because I have done so much different types of meditating, and I've done a lot of spiritual practices to learn my inner being more, like all different kinds. One of the things that's really common is this idea that your body has 7 chakras or 7 energy centers, and they run up and down your spine, starting at whatever. And so one of the anchoring techniques that are in many, many practices, regardless of religion, but just in this spiritual practice, is to picture energy coming from the top of your head, like way over your head, running all the way down through the back of your head, down all the way down into your spine, all the way through your pelvis into the earth, and anchoring into that earth, and then running that energy up and down. Even if you don't really feel like you know what you're doing, or it sounds weird, you can still practice that as a grounding technique if you visualize even just a light or something running up and down while you're sitting flat. And that's a really, really strong practice for anchoring and grounding.
The other thing I was thinking about is there's a whole variety of different breath work you can do to anchor.
Yes, exactly.
You can just search that up on the internet, and there's
well, and we remember the 4-7-8 breathing. We've talked a lot about that.
That's really handy.
Breathing in for 4.
When you can't go sit in the corner and run through your chakras, you can maybe realign your breathing. Yeah. All right, next.
You sounded like you didn't think that chakra thing was real. I'm telling you, JJ, you need to try it. Before you whip your socks off and run outside in the snow, you sit cross-legged for 30 seconds, dude, and then you come back and say what you think about that.
We each have our things.
True. That's right.
Okay, next on the list, sit with uncertainty. So just sit with it.
Oh, I don't know if I can do that. Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. Can you do that?
I think I can do that.
Comfortably?
I think one of the the things I'm really pretty good at is being in a state of discomfort for a prolonged period of time.
I think that's the introversion coming out.
Even my hobbies,
all teasing
even
aside,
my hobbies, lean that way.
Yeah. All kidding aside, you are really good at that. One of the things that you will often say in the middle of this, if we're in the middle of uncertainty or you are, or I'm talking about something that I am, regardless of the topic, we'll talk it through, and then you'll always say it'll be fine. And you're not placating, you're not blowing it off. You just literally think that way.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. Yeah. There, exactly. That's the tone. Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, you do.
The reason that I think that developing the skill of sitting with discomfort or just generally sitting with discomfort is that a lot of times we can't actually resolve the uncertainty that we're ruminating over. Like there's nothing
most of the time
we can't. Like it's there. Yeah. Maybe we can resolve it tomorrow. Maybe we can resolve it next week.
Right.
Maybe it doesn't get resolved for a year or two from now. But if that's the case, what are we gonna do about it now? What good is spending all of this emotional energy on a thing we can't actually affect?
And I actually think when we do that, we start having a false sense of ownership over it. Like we start thinking, if we think about this long enough, maybe we'll solve it, which then gives us ownership, which isn't real. And then we go into just feeling more. And again,
you talk about how the brain is a really good tool and a really terrible master. And this is this is exactly what you're talking about. There. Is again, our brains are really good problem solvers, and they just want to solve the problem. But if there's nothing to be solved, and we just spin on it, trying different angles, the other thing that I've noticed when you sit with uncertainty for longer, it tends to get more negative. The story you start playing over and over starts to become like more and more and more negative.
Yes, and bigger. More and more negative and bigger.
So when you're sitting with it, you got to kind of figure out a way to like let it go, or don't let it. If you can't let it go, don't let it grow.
Ooh, did you just coin that?
Maybe.
Oh, that's so good. I gotta write that down right now. So I don't forget.
In the self-awareness journey, Dr. Seuss book. So, is there anything for you when you notice you're ruminating on something? Like, how do you sit with it? Do you have any techniques for just kind of accepting it, or what do you do right there?
Yeah, I think for me, what I try to do is change my thoughts into a different topic. So if I'm just constantly in this mode of solving something, like getting ready for an event for work, or trying to make sure that all the details of something that I'm responsible for, I won't forget anything. Because that's always a big trigger for me, is because I don't like a lot of details. So and there's a lot of things in my life that I have a lot of detail I have to be aware of. I feel like I will consciously change my thoughts, or change what I'm doing, or change where I am. I just try to move and change segments, as they say in the law of attraction. I just try to change segments to give myself a rest.
Yep.
Because if I do that, then usually it dissipates, usually. And if it's really bad, about the only thing that works is to sleep.
Okay. Well,
and it resets.
Which sometimes is really hard. When you're spinning on something, sometimes the very hardest thing is to go to sleep.
100% true.
A really tactical thing around this idea is one way I found to kind of release some of this anxiety is do things like, if you're worried about forgetting something tomorrow, write it down. Like make a list. Yep. Just write it down.
Yeah, I do that too.
Using writing to get thoughts out of your head is a really good technique. You journal what you're worried about. And sometimes the act of writing can really help get things out. So,
yeah, that's
all right.
good. That's really good.
Last one.
Last one.
There's 4 of them.
Oh.
Self-validate.
Wow.
So that means to like legitimize your emotions.
I really like that.
So, when someone, I don't know, maybe something bad happens at work, you lose a big client, your manager's a jerk to you or something, just accept that and say, like, of course I feel this way. Like, give yourself a little grace. Like, of course I'm mad. Of course I'm upset. Of course I'm hurt.
I know. Who wouldn't feel like this? Yeah. That's a lot of the stuff that I will say with clients is it's like, that's okay. Like, these are your thoughts and feelings, and that's okay. I always say that. And that's okay. Who wouldn't feel like this right now? It's completely normal. And the other thing is to remind yourself that you're well-intended. Yep. Just to remind yourself, you're doing the best you can. You mean well. Yeah, and around self-validation, what I observe is it's very easy to compare ourselves to other people. So we might be in a situation where we're in a group and something kind of goes amiss, and maybe I get very upset about it. And then you look at the other people and are like, why aren't they upset? And then you start, why am I the only one? And then you start really going down the spiral. Well, the other people could be very upset too. They're just not showing it. Or they've got their own thing going on. So, or you're catastrophizing yourself in such a way that's so unrealistic that there's no possible way it's true. And so I always try to be really looking out for comparing. Like, why is that other person so cool under pressure and I'm not? You do that? Everyone else wonders why I'm so cool under pressure. Oh, okay. There's the reverse.
Well, actually, that's
because I stand outside barefoot in the grass. That's why.
So I was talking with one of my friends a couple weeks ago, and she goes like, I don't know, we were just talking about like all of the work and family and kids chaos that happens, and she goes, JJ, I just don't know why you're so calm about things all the time. And it actually kind of struck me like, I don't think I'm super calm about things all the time. Like, no. But
nobody is.
I think I maybe just don't show it.
Right. That's what I was just going to say.
That's what I said. I'm like, I'm not showing it. I'm not as calm and collected as you think I am.
Yeah, but I think that's normal for all of us.
But that's the
humans.
comparing
we do feel
thing,
very protective,
right?
Yes.
So,
yeah,
really, just everything you feel is okay, just like you said.
Exactly. Feelings are never wrong. Yeah.
So the other thing. Okay, so just to review the list because we like to review.
Yeah. Good.
Anchor yourself. Oh, you know what? I skipped one. You're right. Oh my goodness.
I thought you did. You skipped number 3. What was number 3?
Take your thoughts less seriously.
We've kind of been I feel like this whole pod we've been just a little kitschy, more kitschy than usual.
I love this one.
I do too. It should be number 1.
Take your thoughts less seriously. I can't believe I missed that one. Yes. I am a firm believer that life is not that serious. If you just look at everything like it's playful, things get a lot better.
Yes, yeah. When you're doing speaker training, they say, picture everyone in their underwear. And then you get in certain rooms and you think, oh, good Lord, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. But yeah, I think there's a number of times that are very anxious times for people or stressful times, or they get angry about things and they get really in their spin. And I think adding some humor to it is always the great diffuser. Yep. Always. Yep. Not sarcasm, not mean-spirited humor, but just be a little playful because you might be having the exact same argument you've had with your spouse for 15 years. And if you're a little playful about it, you can just have some fun knowing what's coming next. And it can change the whole scenario.
Yeah, and there's there's so many times where things feel really serious in the moment, and then we look back at those times and we're like, why were we so wrapped around the axle with that?
Exactly.
And that's, again, not to invalidate your feelings about it, but if you can...
No, it's just putting it more in context.
Just like a little different frame. If you can reframe some things and say, yeah, this situation does suck. I have no control over it.
Right.
And I'm going to get through it, and I don't have to take everything so seriously. So...
And next time I'm going to wear a pair of drop seat pajamas when I come to this event so I don't get so stressed out. Of course, you're not going to, but the idea of that makes you think it's funny. Whatever. Yeah. Have a sense of humor.
So anchor yourself, take your thoughts less seriously, sit with uncertainty, and self-validate. Okay. That's the list.
Oh, those are great.
The other thing I was thinking about, I've got one more.
Oh,
I was going to add my own.
Cool. Okay.
To me, one of the interesting things about this is we all go through cycles of dwelling and ruminating and anxiety. But there's lots of times where we're not in that mode. So to me, it's focus on those in-between times. Like, don't ruin your entire day with focusing on those anxious times. Realize that there's a lot of time during the day in between those swells. Right. And it might be easy. It might be like your morning cup of coffee. That might be one of the very calm times. So just try to maybe notice the calm times, the in between the waves.
Yeah. One way to do that, I just got this great, as you were talking, it reminded me that I was doing a speaking engagement, and there was one of the servers there. She was like the lead server. She was just hustling the whole day. She was really good. And she was wearing a watch, and when I was standing next to her, her watch went off. And I looked at it and I said, wow, you've got yourself on a short tether. And she said, oh, no, it's my mindful minute.
Oh, nice.
Did I mention that to you? It was really cool. She said once an hour, her watch goes off. For 1 minute, she stops what she's doing, and she just kind of does a little mindful inventory.
Oh, wow. What a great
And she said,
technique.
It has changed my life. She said, it takes, and she said, I figured if I can do something for 1 minute, like who can't do something for 60 seconds?
Yep.
And she said it really helps. So that's a great idea too with
All right, cool. Well, thanks for sending over that article that you didn't read.
Thanks for reading it.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.